Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is McKenna for those of you who don't know me, and I tell the stories of those who can't tell it themselves. I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you haven't done so already and you want to become part of our family and you don't want to miss out on any of the crime content that I post here on this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out. Today we're going to talk about a very bizarre case, the case of Linda and Walter Couch. Is Linda a cold-blooded killer, or is she a victim of domestic violence who felt she had no way out and this was all just an accident? I don't have a hard and fast opinion on this yet. I think there's a lot of gray area. I want to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments and we can have a conversation about it. So let's go ahead and get started. Linda and Walter Couch met one another at a wedding reception, and Linda is actually the one who approached Walter. She seems like somebody who has very low self-esteem, and she seemed incredibly excited and almost impressed that somebody like Walter would even talk to her, let alone date her. She described him as very charismatic, good-looking, and clean-cut, and after they started talking, they started dating very soon after and got married very quickly. She was 16 when they got married, and I believe he was 5 years her senior. They moved into his home in Cincinnati immediately after getting married, and things were great until she got pregnant with their first daughter, Roxanne. Linda says that Walter's entire demeanor, his personality, everything changed when she got pregnant with Roxanne. He went as far as to begin physically abusing her, pushing her down the steps while she was pregnant. She even says that he was incredibly agitated with Roxanne when she would cry as a baby, and so all of the parenting was left to her, and he would just go out with his friends and she was expected to take care of everything at home. They went on to have 2 more children, another girl and a boy, and Linda claims that this abuse, the physical abuse, began to get worse and that he started to take it out on Roxanne. Interestingly, she says that this abuse never occurred to either of the other 2 children, but just to Linda and Roxanne. Linda says that she had black eyes, that she had her nose broken, that she was pushed down the steps, and that Roxanne would take daily beatings. He would beat her with his belt, and that she did everything she could to step in and sort of put herself in the line of fire in order to take the physical abuse for Roxanne and to kind of take the heat off of her. Linda says that she and Roxanne endured this abuse throughout her marriage to Walter, which in total was about 14 years. But things got worse when Walter started bringing home his friends, and he would allow them to all sexually abuse her, and that they would assault her, and he would sit back and just watch and laugh as this happened. Now, just prior to Walter's murder, Linda had actually started going back to school to become a nurse. She viewed this as her way out. She was going to be able to make money. She was away from Walter during the day when she was at school, and this was ultimately a way that she could provide a better life for herself and for her children. Linda says that on the night of Walter's death, October 13th, 1984, he had approached her and said that she had to quit school, she had to leave the nursing program, and she had to stay in the home. And she says that this was the very first time throughout their 14 years of marriage where Linda said no. And this infuriated Walter. Linda says that his eyes basically went black. He was enraged. She says that he went to the closet, got out a gun, and the 2 of them started to tussle over it. She specifically remembers going after his groin, trying to hit him in the groin, and that the 2 were fighting over the gun, and she was pleading him, give me the gun, something bad is going to happen, and that ultimately he accidentally ended up shot. Linda says that when the police arrived, she was incredibly forthcoming. She told them everything that had happened. She was 100% truthful, but the police didn't arrive until October 24th, 1984, leaving a 10-day window. Not everybody believes Linda's claims of abuse. The assistant prosecutor, Patrick Dinkelhocker, says that none of this was presented to him during her trial. He only became aware of Linda's claims of intense abuse in recent years, and he says that this could have swayed her trial, but that none of that was presented during the case. The prosecutor says that the family was devastated by Walter's death. His parents, their children were all incredibly devastated by the loss of Walter. But what does Roxanne have to say about all of this? Because I think she's a key player in this entire case. Roxanne validates a lot of what Linda says in terms of the abuse that they endured throughout Linda's marriage. Roxanne says that she became so accustomed to being beaten by her father that she basically learned to just lay there and take it. She says that the beatings that she received from Walter were basically daily, that he had a temper that could go from 0 to 100 in a split second. She believes that the abuse was directed towards her because she looked so much like her mother. She says that she and Linda physically looked very similar and that nothing she did was ever good enough. She was never pretty enough, never smart enough. She was too big. And that she tried to figure out how to prevent the beatings from happening, but it didn't matter what she did, she could count on a daily beating from her father. Roxanne was basically Linda's only friend, and she says that because of this, she was privy to a lot of what was going on behind the scenes. And basically, she claims that Linda had started to hoard cash and credit cards and started to take out loans in order to get away from Walter. But things took a turn for the worse when Linda's loans started to come due. Roxanne says that the banks wanted Walter to basically come down and pay the loans off, but that this was impossible because Walter didn't know that Linda was hoarding all of this cash. This was Linda's plan to get out and get away from Walter. And if she let Walter find out that she had hoarded this money, had taken out these loans, her plan was over and there was no getting away from him. Let's take a look at the hard evidence presented by the prosecution at Linda's trial. The prosecution made it a point to create a timeline of events prior to Walter's death. And the first thing they presented was the deed to the home. So remember we discussed that Walter and Linda moved into Walter's home just after they got married. Well, up until 1983, the deed was in his parents' name. His parents essentially owned the home. In 1983, Walter's parents transferred ownership of the home exclusively to Walter, meaning Linda had no rights to the home. But on September 28th, 1983, again, this is just prior to Walter's death, Linda used very antiquated methods of finessing the deed to appear like it was transferred to her. She essentially used like cutting up the deed, pasting names, copying it to make it look like Walter's parents had transferred ownership of the home to her. Next, the prosecution showed evidence that Linda made it a point to ensure that the children were not in the home on the night of Walter's murder. On October 8th, this was a week prior to his death, she had made plans for all of the children to spend the night, October 13th, at their grandparents' house. Now, I don't think that this is hard evidence that she was planning anything, because I think lots of parents make plans or plan a week ahead of time for their children to spend a weekend at their grandparents' home. Yes, this could have been her plan to get them out of the house and make sure that there were no witnesses, but I think this is sort of normal in anybody's home. On October 9th, and here is perhaps some of the most damning evidence, Linda purchased a gun. Now, Linda claims that Linda and Walter together went and purchased this gun. The prosecution claims that Linda purchased this gun on her own. I haven't been able to find any research to suggest either claim, but Nevertheless, a gun was purchased on October 9th. The prosecution states that Linda went as far as to ensure that she had bullets for the gun and that she knew how to load it before she left the department store where it was purchased. Now, perhaps the most damning evidence of all, the gunshot wound that Walter sustained was to the back of the head. This basically takes away any proof they got into an argument, face-to-face, tussling over the gun, because the gunshot wound was to the back of the head. And according to the prosecution, this means that he was basically killed execution style and he didn't even know what had hit him. This makes any argument of an accidental shooting nearly impossible to defend. The story gets even stranger when we start to discuss the 10-day gap between Walter's murder and Linda's arrest. Instead of calling the police immediately, Linda hid Walter's body in their basement. She told family and friends that she and Walter had gotten into an argument and that Walter had left and that she had no clue where he had gone. 10 days later, on the day that Walter's body was discovered, Walter's parents arrived at her home to confront her and ask her what was going on. Police were called to a domestic dispute at Linda's home, and when they arrived, they found screaming chaos. Parents were yelling and family members were running around the yard, and they had found Walter's body buried in the backyard in the vegetable patch. Now, what makes this even stranger is that during that 10-day gap, family and the children of Linda and Walter Couch had helped dig that vegetable patch. So essentially, what I'm telling you is that Linda had family and their children help dig the grave of Walter Couch. Walter's body had been found in the backyard, and his body had been rolled up in a large carpet of sorts. One juror, Clint Ekberg, felt extreme sympathy for Linda when the trial first began because Linda was visibly upset. She was crying, she was wailing. Basically, she was clutching her rosary beads under the table where she was sitting. But when evidence was presented that not only had Walter been shot in the back of the head, but that family and her children had helped dig the hole in the backyard that Linda eventually buried Walter's body in, his sympathy changed and he couldn't deny the underlying tone of guilt. Linda specifically denies the claims that her children helped dig this hole. She does say that family or friends, others had helped her dig this patch in the backyard, but she denies that the children helped dig it. She says they were too young, that they were present when it was being done. And I'm not sure, I think this is just a way for her to feel better about essentially what had happened, but she does claim that the children had nothing to do with digging the hole in the backyard. Roxanne says that they were there, that they did help dig the hole, but that she does say that she carries around a lot of guilt surrounding this event, and I can imagine how traumatic it must have been to find out that you were indeed helping dig the hole that your mother eventually buried your dead father in. I can't even begin to unpack that emotional trauma. Roxanne backs up a lot of what her mother says regarding her claims of abuse. She says that her mother did not protect her, that her mother left the room whenever she was getting beat because she couldn't stand to see it. And so it upsets her, offends her, deeply hurts her that her mother claims to have taken some of the abuse rather than allowing Roxanne to get beaten. Roxanne ultimately testified for the prosecution. She did validate some parts of Linda's story in regards to the abuse, but she denies a lot of what Linda says occurred. In recent years, Linda was interviewed and says that Roxanne's testimony and her story have been influenced by Walter's parents because after Linda was arrested, the children were cared for by Walter's parents, and she claims that they had a lot to do with what the children believe and how Roxanne testified. Linda met her mandatory sentence in 2004, and she has been denied parole 7 times. She says that the parole board always claims that they deny her parole because of the nature of her crime. And she says, the nature of my crime is never going to change, but what has changed is the type of person that I am. And she was up for parole again on March 30th, 2021, so this year, but I've been unable to find anything that states whether or not she was denied parole. I want to know what you guys think about this. Did Linda plan and execute Walter? I'm not going to deny that she was abused. This was obviously backed up by Roxanne. However, was Walter's murder planned, or was this an accident? I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below. I will do everything I can to find an update about Linda Couch, but I have been unable to do so far. So let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts. Is she guilty of cold-blooded murder, or was this an accident? Let me know. I will talk to you soon, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!